Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mukhtar Ahmed with the Virtual University course of Leadership and Team Management. As you are aware that we have completed 24 lectures and today we'll be starting lecture number 25. If you recall, during the start of the course, I explained that we'll take this course into two parts at the macro level. Because as the title of the course indicated, it is leadership and team management. So we divided this course into two parts, leadership and team management. During the last 24 lectures, our main focus was trying to understand this leadership process and also to related subjects which are important to understand this whole process of leadership. As you are aware that the leadership is a process, not a position, and three important components of this whole process were leaders, the followers, and the situation. And we try to understand each individual component of this very important process. And why did we focus on this thing? Because humans are important. The more and more people realize, the more and more organizations realize that it is a very important component. It is very important input any organization can have. The more and more they are more concerned about the difference in human behaviors, the performance, the characteristics. And that is how they are separating leader from the followers. Because leader is playing a very important role. It doesn't mean that leaders are more important than followers or followers are more important than leaders. They complement each other. So we need to identify leaders and followers so that we should accordingly assign them the task for which they have the edge on each other. The focus was understanding the theoretical background and the kind of different research based on different kind of findings. What are those traits, what are those characteristics which make one person a leader and the other a followers? Because we also understood that leaders can be trained, leaders can be prepared, and all those traits, the behavior aspect can be learned. So this is becoming more important for organizations that they should understand these all aspects so that they should make necessary arrangements for the better performance of their teams, their leaders, their followers, and ultimately, of course, the organization as a whole. So we try to understand. And we also focus that why this leadership is important, why the leaders are important. And remember, I gave you certain situation factors or situations. Just consider how a family is going to work or live if they don't have a leader, or जिसको कहते हैं सरबराह in the family. Just consider about any organization if they have without any leader. Just consider any business if they have without any business leader on them, with them. And that for that sake, for that purpose, just consider any team which is without leader or which has a kind of ineffective leader or bad leader. So that was the whole idea, the concept we tried to understand this leadership process. So ladies and gentlemen, I think this 24 lecture, during last 24 lectures, we have understood many aspects of leader, followers, and situation. And of course, same time, the role of power, how communication is playing an important role in this whole process of leadership. So now we'll be shifting to second part of this, our subject, our course, that is the team. And it doesn't mean that leadership part is finished. what I'll do, I'll spend 10 to 15 lectures, maybe, or 10 to 12 lectures, focusing on the team, basically, trying to understand the team dynamics, basically. What are those different factors which affect the team? What is the difference between group and a team? How can you make teams? What are those stages of team formation or group formation for that purpose? How the conflict within the team, you can manage it. How team can act as an effective team, or they can be a winning team. How can you make a team an effective team? So these are few aspects, peculiar aspects, we'll be covering during next 10 to 12 lectures. And then I'll shift back to few important aspects of leaders or leadership. Basically, leader as a strategical partner, basically. Lead ethics and leaderships. And there are certain more important topics which still have to cover for this subject or for this course. But today, as I said, we'll be shifting to another aspect, another part of this course, that is the team. So why team? Why group? Why can't a single person do the things? Why didn't we need more people? And they say, I just see this nice slide I picked from somebody. 2 heads can be better than 1. और देखिए, कैसे कहते हैं ना, 1 और 1 11 होते हैं. क्या मतलब है इसका? कई दफा काम ऐसे होते हैं, एक्टिविटीज ऐसी होती हैं जो इंडिविजुअल्स के बस का काम नहीं है. You need different kind of skills. You need different kind of expertise, which a person cannot have. For that purpose, you need different skill set, which can be present in different type of peoples. And with those skill sets, you gather those people, bring them under one umbrella. And it is not that in reality you have to bring them under at one place, because today the virtual organizations are there. People sitting here and few sitting in other countries, maybe in other kind of areas, but still they work like a team, still they work in a group, in an organization. So for that purpose, we do need certain groups, certain teams. Sometimes people do form groups due to their mutual interest. Sometimes organization can make them a group and they have to work like a group. And then, of course, team is there. And later on today in this lecture, we'll try to identify the difference between group and a leader. Right? So let's start with the basic thing, the group, or group dynamics basically. What a group is basically. What is group? Group, when we have 2 or more people together who interact with each other, maybe to accomplish certain goals or mission, so we call them the group. So ladies and gentlemen, in the group form, they might not be depending on each other. They might be individually doing things together due to their mutual interest, due to have common objectives, but they might not be depending on each other. That is why we call them group. But in case of team is also a form of group where members work intensely with each other and they are depending on each other for the common goals. So we can say that all teams are groups, but not necessarily all groups are teams. Teams are often difficult to form because in the form of group, they can work together independently. They might not be concerned with each other because they are interested in their own objectives and they might have common objectives. But due to one reason or other, they are together. But in case of team, it takes times for members, or group members, to become a team because they have to learn how to work together. Just imagine any team. If the team is not going to work with coordination and each member is depending on each other, they're not going to win. If they will start playing independently, if everybody will try himself or only for his sake, or his of keeping in view his objective, that might not work. And that team is not going to win. So understand the difference basically, group and team, because in case of team, the members are more interdependent on each other. Coming back to groups, a group is effective, remember, when it satisfies three criteria. Number one, production output. Number two, member satisfaction. Number three, capacity for continued cooperation. So let us discuss one by one. Number one was production output. The product or service of any groups or group work, whatever, must meet or exceed the standard of quality and quantity. Whatever has been expected from a group, it should at least meet that quality or quantity things. So we'll say that group is ineffective. Member satisfactions. The membership in the group must provide people with short-term and of course long-term satisfaction for their growth and development. And the third one is the capacity for continued cooperations. How the group completes a task should maintain or enhance a group's ability to work together. Groups that don't cooperate cannot survive. Because again, remember in the group form, people come close because they have the common interest. If they are not cooperating with each other, so next time, that group cannot work together. So that is natural, right? So dear students, we are trying to understand the group and team concept. As I said earlier, group, the setup where we have two or more people with common interests and objectives, while in the team, the group where people with more complementary skills are together and who are committed to a common mission, performance goals, and basically they are depending on each other, and of course they hold themselves mutually accountable for whatever cause they are working together. Again, we're trying to understand group versus teams. Remember, all teams are groups, but not necessarily that all groups are teams. We can have some groups where people are just assembled together because they have their own interest. While in team, they have the task, interdependence on each other. So that is what is the basic difference basically. That in the group, as work together, maybe independently, or maybe kind of collaborating with each other, cooperating with each other. But in the team, they are essential for each other because they are depending on each other. And that is a big difference. What about why it is important basically? Because when the task is difficult, when the things which you need to accomplish are difficult, then it will become beyond the individual capacity that he or she can perform. So we need more people with different skill set. Like in any organization, we can have people with the expertise in finance. But we do also need people with marketing skills. If we are a production company or organization, so it means we need technical people too, who will be working on the production side. We also need which are expert in human resource manager, HR manager. We also might need people who are expert in the legal aspects. So, when the things are complex, when the task is complicated, we need people to work like a team because we need different skill sets. Why do people join groups? Today I'll try just to mix both things, group and teams, and I just want to start you to start thinking about this concept of group and teams. And we should be very clear what is the difference between group and team. Remember I said that group where two or more people are working together. They might not be depending on each other. They might have goals, different goals, or similar type of goals. But in the team, they have the same mission or goals, where team members are interdependent on each other, and they are also accountable to each other. Why people join groups? There might be different reasons. I'll just pick 4 or 5 and just try to give you a feeling that why people form groups. Maybe due to security, due to status conscious people, because they think that if they are part of a group, they can have more recognition. It might be social needs, or we call it peer pressure. It might be that they want that more people can have more powers, and they have particular goals where they think individually they're going to reach it, so they come together. And again, there might be this kind of separating. So that is why people form different groups. And when talking about groups, there can be different type of groups. But mainly we can divide them into 2 type of groups. Number 1, the formal groups, and number 2, the informal groups. Formal groups are always a result of the demand of some process, or it can be designed or authorized by some organizations because they have certain activities to perform. And again, within this form of group, we have 2 types of groups. One can be command group, and second can be task group. The command group comprises of subordinates reporting directly to a given supervisor. While in the task groups, they comprises of employees who work together to complete a particular task. Because they were gathered, they were made a group for a certain objective or to perform a certain task. Similarly, there is another group, we call it informal group. Natural groupings of people in a particular environment. In response maybe due to certain social needs, due to some peer groups, pressures, maybe that in that particular society, the number matters and people want to be known with a particular group which has the power. They are important, but of course, they are there for their personal interest. And that is why within that group we can have 2 different type of groups. One is the interest groups and second can be friendship groups. Interest groups comprises of workers or people working together to achieve mutual objectives. Nobody has formed them. Under no administrative control they are. Nobody has directed them to form a group because they have the similar type of objectives. So they are informally together to achieve those objectives. Similarly, the friendship groups. When people working in any organization, in any setup, they share something in common, so naturally they become a group. So that is the friendship group. But in the broader spectrum, we can divide them into 2 groups. One is the formal group and the second is the informal group. One of the remarkable things about this work group or team is that they can make 2 plus 2 into 5 or even 6. But of course, they also have the capability of making 2 plus 2 into 3. What does it mean? That if the group is effective, if the team is effective, so mathematically, they can make 2 plus 2 into 5 or 6. How can one make 2 plus 2 into 5 or 6? So this means that if you take the individual output and just add them, it should be, if they're working individually, it must have some numbers, right? Like a person, if you have more than one person and they're all working on a machine, sewing machine, and they're making some shirts. Let's see if one person is making 2 shirts every day. So if you bring 10 people and individually they are working on their whole the task from cutting to completing the shirt, so altogether they should be making 20 shirts. But if we let them work in a group or in a team environment, they should divide work within them. Few persons, they're working on cutting part. Others are making cuff and collars. Another might be stitching and making them like shirts. And one or two, they are doing the finishing part. So logically, according to this concept, they might be making at the end of day 22, 24, 25 or whatever. What does it mean? Again, मकसद ये हुआ कि अगर इंडिविजुअल का काम लिया जाए, सेपरेट वो अकेले काम कर रहे हैं, तो उनको ऐड किया जाए, यू विल गेट ए नंबर, एक्स नंबर. लेकिन जब इंडिविजुअल को इकट्ठा करके दे शुड वर्क लाइक ए ग्रुप, वर्किंग ग्रुप के इन्वायरमेंट में या टीम में काम करेंगे, तो प्रोबेबिलिटी है, चांसेस हैं कि जो आउटपुट होगा वो उस x प्लस समथिंग होगा. फ्रॉम वेयर दिस x केम, जैसा भी मैंने आपको बताया कि 2 + 2 दे कैन मेक टू 5. ये 1 एक्स्ट्रा किधर से आया? इसको कहते हैं हम सिनर्जी. ये उस ग्रुप में काम करने के आपस का नतीजा है कि उसमें उनकी इंडिविजुअल जो वैल्यू है उससे बढ़ गया. दैट इज द पॉजिटिव साइड ऑफ द ग्रुप. लेकिन ऐसे भी हो सकता है कि इट कैन हैव ए नेगेटिव इफेक्ट. वी कॉल इट प्रोसेस लॉस, जिसमें यह भी हो सकता है कि 2 + 2 3 हो जाए, और वो जो 1 पार्ट है वो किधर गया? वो लॉस हो गया उस प्रोसेस में जो वो ग्रुप की शक्ल में काम कर रहे थे. ठीक है, तो उसको हम ग्रुप प्रोडक्टिविटी भी कहते हैं. ग्रुप की शक्ल में जो प्रोडक्टिविटी होती है, जब लोग इकट्ठे काम करते हैं, तो ये प्रोडक्टिविटी पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव दोनों हो सकती है. पॉजिटिव होगी तो उसको हम सिनर्जी कहेंगे, नेगेटिव होगी तो उसको प्रोसेस लॉस कहेंगे. सिनर्जी का मतलब क्या है? इस बायोलॉजिकल टर्म ऑफ कोर्स, कि आपने दो चीजें ऐड की, एक का एक अमाउंट, दूसरे का दूसरा अमाउंट, और वो जो रिजल्ट मिलेगा वो उन दोनों को मिला के उसके बराबर होना चाहिए. लेकिन जब प्रोडक्ट बनता है वो उन दोनों के मिलाने से जो अमाउंट होना चाहिए उससे बढ़ के होता है. इसको सिनर्जी कहते हैं. और प्रोसेस लॉस क्या है? ये वो है एक्चुअली जब ग्रुप में लोग काम करते हैं तो उसको आप कहते हैं मे बी ड्यू टू ग्रुप मेंटेनेंस हो सकता है, सोशल लॉफिंग कह सकते हैं, फ्री राइडिंग कह सकते हैं इसको, कि जब ग्रुप की शक्ल में होता है, व्हेन देयर इज नो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फिक्स ऑन ईच पर्सन, तो कुछ दरमियान में ऐसे लोग भी होते हैं जो कुछ भी नहीं करते, बस वो ग्रुप की वजह से बेनिफिट ले रहे होते. सोशल लॉफिंग भी उसको कहते हैं और इसको फ्री राइडिंग भी कहते हैं. तो उसकी वजह से काफी, या जैसा होता है ग्रुप में काम करते हैं तो इंडिविजुअल अगर सेपरेट काम करते तो उसका कोई रिजल्ट निकलता, लेकिन जब वो इकट्ठे काम कर लें तो बजाय एक दूसरे को फायदा देने के वो ब्लॉकेज का काम करना शुरू हो गए. तो दैट इज ए प्रोसेस लॉस थिंग. तो गॉट द पॉइंट दैट बेसिकली when we're talking about the group productivity of a group or a team for that purpose too, अभी दोनों को मैं आपको शुरू में मैंने आपको डिफरेंस बता दिया, थोड़ा सा बेस बना रहा हूं कि आप समझ जाएं ये ग्रुप और टीम क्या होते हैं, और फिर हम आस्ते आस्ते शिफ्ट हो जाएंगे टुवर्ड टीम्स. कि इसकी प्रोडक्शन किस पे डिपेंड कर रही थी कि दोनों साइड पे हो सकता है. इट कैन बी 2 + 2 5 एंड इट कैन बी 2 + 2 3. वो जो 2 + 2 5 हुआ वो उसको सिनर्जी इफेक्ट कहेंगे, सिनर्जिकल इफेक्ट कहेंगे. और जो लॉस हो गया एक पॉइंट उनमें से, वो प्रोसेस लॉस हो सकता है, जिसमें आपको मिसाल दी ब्लॉकेज की. लोग ब्लॉकेज भी कर सकते हैं, और इसको सोशल लॉफिंग या फ्री राइडिंग का कंसेप्ट भी कह सकते हैं. मैं हमेशा कहता हूं कि आप स्टूडेंट हैं, आपको तो इसकी बहुत मिसाल एग्जाम्पल मिलती होंगी. समटाइम teacher do form different groups and give them assignments. They give them some work to perform. They give them some kind of project to complete. तो आप देखते हैं अमूमन आपके ग्रुप्स के अंदर भी 1-2 शहजादे ऐसे होते हैं कि जो काम तो नहीं करते, लेकिन वो नंबर में साथ हैं. जब आप असाइनमेंट जमा करने लगते हैं, जब आप वो अपना प्रोजेक्ट देने लगते हैं, तो वो उसमें उनका नाम भी शामिल है. दे आर आल्सो गेटिंग द बेनिफिट. लेकिन लॉजिकली और नेचुरली देखा जाए उसके अंदर, अगर उनका भी इनपुट हो जाता تو آپ کی جو ورتھ تھی, اس کی جو کوالٹی تھی, اس جو پروڈکٹ یا سروس آپ پروڈیوس کر رہے ہو بہتر ہوتی. وہ نہیں ہوئی, وہ کم ہوگی اس وجہ سے کیونکہ انہوں نے اپنا کام, اپنے حصے کا کام نہیں کیا. یہی چیز اس کی گروپ کی پروڈکشن پہ یا گروپ کی ایفیشنسی پہ یا افیکٹونیس پہ یہ چیزیں نظر آتی ہیں. Let's talk about the characteristics of well-functioning and effective groups. ابھی ہم دونوں چیزوں کو اکٹھا لے کے چل رہے ہیں آپ کے ساتھ. شروع میں نے جیسے آپ سے کہا, میں نے گروپ کو اور ٹیم کو آپ کو ڈفرینشیٹ کر کے دکھایا. And we can have the effective groups. We can have the efficient group. We can have the well-functioning groups. کچھ کریکٹرسٹکس, یہ اگر آپ نے میرا آرگنائزیشن بہیویئر کا کورس میں ساتھ پڑھا تو اس میں بھی میں نے یہ آج جو میں باتیں کر رہا ہوں اس کے اندر بھی میں نے یہ ڈسکس کی ہیں. So for a well-functioning group, there are certain characteristics. Number one, the members are relaxed, they are comfortable, they are informal, and the atmosphere is good. So that is one indication that group is effective or well-functioning. اب اس کا نیگیٹو آسپیکٹ بھی دیکھا جا سکتا ہے کہ وہ کچھ بھی نہیں کر رہے اسی لیے ریلیکس ہیں, بٹ وی ڈونٹ ٹیک دیٹ پارٹ ایز اے پروڈکٹیوٹی. ہم اس کی بات کریں جو گروپ اچھا پرفارم کرے. تو اس کے کریکٹرسٹکس میں پہلا کیا ہوگا کہ ان کی انوائرمنٹ بڑی اچھی ہوگی, وہ کمفرٹیبل انوائرمنٹ میں کام کر رہے ہوں گے, اس کے ممبر جو ہیں انفارمل ان کا سیٹ اپ ہوگا, ٹھیک ہے, اور ان کو اپنا کام اچھی طرح سمجھ ہوگا. دا ٹاسک از ویل انڈرسٹوڈ اینڈ ایکسپٹڈ. جو ان کو اسائنمنٹ, جو ریسپانسبلٹی گروپ نے آپس میں لی, اف دیٹ از انفارمل, اور جو ان کو دی گئی اف اٹ از فارمل, وہ ان کو سمجھ آ گئی ہر ممبر کو, اینڈ دے ہیو ایکسپٹڈ اٹ. اینڈ سملرلی دا تھرڈ characteristics might be that they listen to each other and they do participate in the decision making. They also give their comments, they discuss things, and they express their feelings. So people express feelings and ideas freely. That is why that group is well functioning or effective group. It doesn't mean they don't have the conflict, they don't have the disagreement. Yes, they do have the conflict, they have the disagreement, but it's centered around ideas and methods, not on personalities. یہ بڑے انفارچونیٹ ہوتی ہے اگر کسی آرگنائزیشن کے اندر, کسی گروپ کے اندر کنفلکٹ یا ڈس ایگریمنٹ بیس کرے, سینٹر کرے پرسنالٹیز کو, کہ اگر آپ نے یہ بات کہہ دی تو ٹھیک ہے, اگر کسی اور نے کہہ دی تو غلط ہے, اگر میں نے آئیڈیا دے دیا تو مائٹ بی گڈ آئیڈیا, اگر کسی اور نے دے دیا تو دیٹ مائٹ بی رانگ آئیڈیا. تو یہ جو پرسنالٹی سینٹرڈ ایشوز ہوتے ہیں, دیٹ آلویز ڈیمیج دی آرگنائزیشن, دیٹ آلویز ڈیمیج دا گروپ, دیٹ آلویز ڈیمیج دی ٹیم. So ladies and gentlemen, the effective groups, the effective teams maybe also, yes, they have conflict, they have disagreements, but mostly center on the ideas, methods, procedures, and again for the improvement. That's a positive sign. Similarly, the people, the member of the group, they are aware of its operations, its functions. They make decision with participation. جب پارٹیسپیشن سے کرتے ہیں تو پھر کنسنسس پہ ڈیسیژن کر لیتے ہیں, سنتے سب کی اپنی اپنی آرگومنٹ کے ساتھ, اور جس کے آرگومنٹ اسٹرانگ ہوتے ہیں اس کی بیس پہ وہ ڈیسیژن گروپ کا ڈیسیژن بن جاتا ہے. اینڈ دے ہیو دا کلیئر اسائنمنٹ میڈ اینڈ ایکسپٹڈ. تو یہ کچھ کریکٹرسٹکس ہیں جو اچھے, افیکٹو, ویل فنکشن گروپ کے آپ کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ ہونے چاہیے. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's talk about groups and teams contribution to organization effectiveness. اس کا آرگنائزیشن کو کیا فائدہ ہوتا ہے؟ گروپ اور ٹیم جو ہوتی ہیں, they can enhance performance, they can increase responsiveness to their customers, to their stakeholders, they increase innovation, they increase motivation and satisfaction. Creativity is there. گروپ اور ٹیم کا کیا فائدہ آرگنائزیشن کے اندر, کہ ان کی وجہ سے آرگنائزیشن کے اندر کریٹیوٹی آتی ہے, انوویشن پیدا ہوتی ہے, دے کین کم اپ ود نیو آئیڈیاز, دے کین کم اپ ود نیو پروڈکٹس, They can come up with new services. They can improve the system. They can have a wonderful idea. And based on that wonderful idea, they can create something new for the organization. So that is how groups and teams, they contribute to organization effectiveness. वो motivation के अंदर, वो organization के अंदर satisfaction level को increase करते हैं, motivate करते हैं एक दूसरे को, वो responsiveness show करते हैं अगर to their stakeholders, especially the customers. तो ये उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को मेंबर है, जिसके ग्रुप के टीम के मेंबर हैं, उसकी इफेक्टिवनेस को उजागर करती है, बढ़ाती है. ठीक है. और ये मिलके 1 और 11 के कॉन्सेप्ट के हिसाब से उसकी परफॉर्मेंस को बढ़ाते हैं. ठीक है ना. तो क्या होता है, बेस्ड ऑन दिस दैट पर्टिकुलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दे कैन हैव द कंपेटिटिव एडवांटेज ओवर अदर सिमिलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, देयर कंपेटिटर्स, देयर other people in this, say in the same market, if they are doing or they are providing the same product or same services. ठीक है. I hope you understood ये ग्रुप और टीम क्या चीजें होती हैं. अब मैं थोड़ा सा टीम को फोकस करता हूं, क्योंकि that is our subject, that is a part of our course. Teams, leadership and team management. तो टीम को मैनेज तभी करेंगे जब टीम को समझेंगे, उसके डायनामिक्स को समझेंगे. तो व्हाट इज टीम अगेन? टीम्स आर ग्रुप्स विद ग्रेटर इंटरडिपेंडेंस, शेयर्ड पर्पस एंड डेस्टिनी दैट कैन बी हायर परफॉर्मिंग देन ग्रुप बट मे नॉट बी. अगर टीम के अंदर कोहेसिवनेस नहीं है तो फिर तो ये बड़ी वर्स्ट चीज हो जाती है, फिर तो इसका कोई फायदा नहीं होता. व्हाई हैव टीम्स बिकम सो पॉपुलर? आजकल के दौर में हर कोई एक दूसरे से कह रहा होता है बी पार्ट ऑफ द टीम. When we evaluate in the organization, परफॉर्मेंस evaluation करते हैं, जब किसी की परफॉर्मेंस evaluation होती है, जब किसी का रेफरेंस लेटर मांगा जाता है, जब किसी का रेफरेंस चेक किया जाता है, तो एक बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन होता है, हाउ ही और शी इज ए टीम मेंबर. लोग देखते हैं कि एज ए ग्रुप लोगों के साथ कैसे काम करता है, इसका बिहेवियर कैसे है, इसका एटीट्यूड कैसा है. तो ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स है कि टीम के अंदर एज ए टीम मेंबर कैसे आप काम करते हो. और जब इवैल्यूएशन होती है, जब आपकी असेसमेंट होती है, तो दैट थिंग्स दे ऑलवेज कीप इन माइंड कि हाउ गुड ही और शी इज अ टीम मेंबर. ए पर्सन माइट बी ए काइंड ऑफ वेरी डायनामिक पर्सन एज फार एज द टेक्निकली कंसर्न, बट इफ ही और शी इज नॉट गुड टीम मेंबर, सो वो उसके नेगेटिव में, क्रेडिट में नेगेटिव एस्पेक्ट जाता है, जिसका लॉन्ग टर्म पे नुकसान होता है. टीम्स टिपिकली आउट परफॉर्म इंडिविजुअल्स. इंडिविजुअल जो काम करते हैं अगर टीम की शक्ल में करें तो वो इंडिविजुअल जो सारे इकट्ठा भी कर लें उनका आउटपुट, वो टीम अगर मैं उसमें काम करेंगे तो उसका आउटपुट उससे ज्यादा हो जाएगा. इन द टीम्स वी यूज द एम्प्लॉइज टैलेंट बेटर बिकॉज दे नो ईच अदर, दे कीप मोटिवेटिंग ईच अदर, दे वांट टू कॉम्प्लीमेंट ईच अदर. वो एक दूसरे को ट्रेन भी कर रहे होते हैं, एक दूसरे को बकअप भी कर रहे होते हैं, एक दूसरे का मोरल भी हाई कर रहे होते हैं. उससे उनका टैलेंट से बेटर फायदा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ले सकती है. टीम्स आर मोर फ्लेक्सिबल एंड रिस्पॉन्सिव टू चेंज इन द एनवायरमेंट. टीम्स फैसिलिटेट एम्प्लॉइज इन्वॉल्वमेंट. टीम्स आर एन इफेक्टिव वे टू इंक्रीज मोटिवेशन. सो दैट इज व्हाई व्हाट आई एम सेइंग टीम्स आर सो पॉपुलर. बट द इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज, टीम बनाना तो आसान है, लेकिन इसको टीम के तौर पे काम लेना बड़ा मुश्किल है. A saying of Casey Stengel is, I quote, "It is easy to get players. Getting them to play together, that is the hard part." ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर जो मसला आता है आजकल, लोग तो इकट्ठे कर लेते हैं आप, अच्छे अच्छे प्लेयर्स, कोई फाइनेंस का एक्सपर्ट है, कोई मार्केटिंग का एक्सपर्ट है, कोई प्रोडक्शन का एक्सपर्ट है, कोई एचआर का आप बड़ा डायनामिक लीडर आपने ले लिया, लेकिन अगर उनको इकट्ठा टीम करना नहीं आया तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है. सो दिस स्टेटमेंट इज वेरी करेक्ट और वेरी काइंड ऑफ आपको एक सारा पिक्चर देती है कि असल में ग्राउंड रियलिटी क्या है. इट इज इजी टू गेट प्लेयर्स, गेटिंग देम टू प्ले टुगेदर, दैट इज द हार्ड पार्ट, वेयर द लीडर इज प्लेइंग देयर पार्ट. हियर द लीडर कैन प्ले देयर पार्ट, कि वो किस तरह इन इंडिविजुअल प्लेयर्स को इकट्ठा करके उनको टीम की तरह लेके आगे चलते हैं. ठीक है. Let's talk about the team roles. The member of the teams, they can play different roles in the team while they are performing certain tasks. It can be task-oriented roles. it can be relation-oriented roles, and it can be self-oriented roles. And all those three roles, they can have positive or negative impact on the task performance or performance of the team. Out of these three roles, two roles have the positive impact, like the task-oriented roles and the relationship-oriented roles. While the self-oriented role, it has a negative impact on the performance. In the task-oriented role, the individuals are a member of the team. They can take the role of initiators. They initiate ideas. They initiate process. They can be information seekers. They can be opinion givers. They can be energizer. This is the positive role basically. All those activities, all those tasks they are doing, they have the positive effect on the performance of the team. Similarly, the relationship-oriented roles. The relationship-oriented role, I say, which can act as, where people can act as, the team members can act as, or the team can act as harmonizers, compromisers, encourager, or expediters. Here it is the relationship part. They harmonize things. If there is some kind of conflict, if there is some kind of issues, they make things harmonize. Similarly, they can compromise things. If they feel, okay, if I need to step back one step, it's no problem. Because the bigger picture is, we need to focus on the task. We need to focus on the performance. They encourage each other. Even if somebody is a little bit weaker, they encourage him or her. That is how this relation-oriented role, it can have the positive impact on the performance of the team or task performance. Similarly, the negative part, the self-oriented roles. If the individuals or the member of the team, they have some self-interest there. So they mostly play the roles which we call it self-oriented. They are always focusing on the personal things. They can act as blocker, because if they think somebody else is getting benefit, so they will try to block him or her so that they should not be taking the positive side, or they should not be making the success. Similarly, some people can be recognized seeker. They want that whatever been achieved, it should be given, the credit should be given to them. So they always go for recognition. Some people are dominators because they have the authoritarian approach. They might have this is again a self-oriented interest or self-oriented role which individual can play in the team. Similarly, a wider, people don't care. So these are all negative aspects. It can have the negative impact on the performance of the team. So ladies and gentlemen, in a team, people can play different roles, and in broader term, we have divided them into three different roles. One is the task-oriented roles, second is the relationship-oriented roles, and third one is the self-oriented roles. Out of these three roles, the two are positive, as I said earlier, the task-oriented roles and the relationship-oriented role. They have the positive impact on the performance of the team. While the self-oriented role, it has the negative impact on the performance of any team or any group for that purpose. While deciding when to use a team, there are certain important aspects which can be acting as good indicator for you that you need a team to perform these tasks. They can be use a team when many perspectives are needed. When you need different skill set basically. So it means individually you cannot handle it. So you need to have a collective wisdom. You need to have a different skill set together and work like a team to achieve those goals. When the acceptance of the decision is critical, when decision making is difficult and nobody wants to take risk, it is very necessary that we should have a team to make a decision, so that the wisdom should prevail and wisdom from different people should come there. And of course, the responsibility will also be shared. The third thing, the problem is complex and unstructured. Definitely then we need more wisdom. A team is required to handle those things. Individual judgments are unreliable. Again, then we need team to be formed and the thing should be tackled in a team manner. Individuals are unwilling to take necessary risks. Then again, you need team to work. You want to develop team members, team related skills. So that is where you need to make a team. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the different aspects, and of course there will be more, and as we go forward, as we go ahead with different topics of this team, we'll learn more things. You should be very cautious about using a team when the issue is unimportant. Then why to waste time? Individuals don't want participation. Individual risk preferences are too high. Time is of essence. Group norms are unacceptable. If these are the conditions, it means you don't need to form a team. You can handle them individually. You can ignore those things. So there are certain issues, certain indicators which can give you indication at what time you need in an organization, in a setup, a team, or you should go for a group form, or you should go for individual decision making or individual handling of those things. But in a broader spectrum, if we are looking in an organization or anything, we know that in today's organization, this is the buzzword. This is the key to success. If you are able to build your individual into team members, and they are working like a team, so they can be successful. They can have the competitive advantage, which can make your organization a successful organization, which can make your team a successful team, which can make this whole process of leadership a successful process of leadership. There are certain crucial activities for a team to perform. They need to organize. They have to maintain the communication within the team member. They need to fix obvious problems if there are certain problems. They have to document progress, the problems, and even the rationale based on which they have made certain decisions. They have to have a progress in place for major team decisions. These are the few crucial activities which a team requires to perform. Let's talk about if you have, because it is not always so simple. If it was simple, everybody should make teams. If it was so simple, every organization should have a team. But in reality, remember, we are dealing with the human being. We are dealing with the people, which are difficult. Sometimes there are problems, behaviors. So for that purpose, organization needs to be careful. They need to be very careful while choosing team members for a team. They need to be very careful when picking people, because for the effective team management, first step is selecting the right type of members. That can be the first step toward your success. So choosing team members is critical. You should be very careful. You need to offer them training. It is not only the selection, it is to making them work like a team. To make them work like a team, you need to give them the training. You need to provide them the clear goals. You have to clearly define their individual responsibilities. You need to use the peer evaluation type of things. You need to reward better performance. Don't let social consideration overwhelming with the concern with the people that they should focus on the task only. You have to understand that they are the social, हम जो कहते हैं ना, we are social animal. जब टीम को हम बात करते हैं तो सिर्फ हमें उसको मशीनें समझ के उसका मेन कंसर्न सिर्फ वो टास्क ही नहीं होनी चाहिए जो उसने अचीव करना है. Because if you take a team along with you, naturally you are going to win. You are going to complete the task. But during that process, we should not ignore that part that they are human being. और उस चीज़ के लिए आपको वो जो लीडर होगा उसका रोल बढ़ जाता है, उसकी इंपॉर्टेंस बढ़ जाती है कि वो साथ साथ फन पार्ट भी रखे, साथ साथ वो टास्क को भी सामने फोकस करता हो, उसको साथ लेके चले. ठीक है. फिर इसी तरह if there are certain problems, you need to remove those problems so that the cohesiveness of the team should maintain, so that the focus of the team should be there. For that purpose, proper communication, proper structure, proper motivation, proper direction, proper rewarding them, keeping them at their toes by training, by motivating. So these are the few things which can act a positive, or it can act as a thrust for them, and they can give you the synergical effect. They can give you the better results as a team. That is how we can make a team successful. Remember, when things are not clear, when the responsibility is not fixed, when it is not clearly mentioned who is responsible for what, then you are not going to you are not going to get good results. So let me share with you another quotation. Is it true that everyone's responsibility is in reality nobody's responsibility. पर ट्रू है ये कि जब आप किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन पे हर एक की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होती है कि ये करना है सबने, तो फिर जब सबको मालूम होता है कि ये सबकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है तो कोई भी इंडिविजुअल उसको ओन नहीं करता. एंड व्हेन देयर इज नो ओनरशिप, बिलीव मी, डजंट मैटर हाउ गुड प्लेयर्स यू हैव, तो वो चीज रिजल्ट नहीं देती. So to make your team effective, you need to define the goals and even goals of individuals, team member. You have to fix the responsibility for each member so that everybody should be knowing what they are supposed to perform, what they are supposed to do it. Then collectively they can make a difference. They can make the results. So to develop an effective team, we need to select right type of people. Selecting is the key. And of course then the training. Not only training, but empowerment. Giving them empowerment. So that each person should make decisions within their framework. Another important aspect is the communication within the team members. And if the communication is a clear communication, and they have understood each other, I bet that will be an effective and good team. Similarly, nothing is free. You have to kind of attach the reward mechanism. For the better performer, the better reward. So this is going to be the key to success. If you have this comprehensive setup that select right type of people, properly train them, properly communicate, they have the proper communication system, they have a clear responsibility and empowerment at the same time. So link with the reward that can make a team an effective team, a successful team, a winning team. How can we build trust within the team members? You need to work for others' interests as well as your own. So if I want to work like a team, I have to give up my own priorities. Not because I don't want to have some benefit, but we have to look after each other. So naturally it will be winning situation for each other. We need to be a team member. We need to practice openness. We need to be fair. We need to speak same time our feelings. If we see something is happening wrong, we have to convey them. Because again, ultimately, it is our responsibilities. We need to show consistency in basic values. We have to maintain confidence. We have to demonstrate competency. And that is how we can build the confidence, the trust within the team members. There are some don'ts and do's in the teamwork. Let's talk about first don'ts. In the teamwork, don't micromanage things, because otherwise as a leader, it will be your failures. Don't withhold information or work around members. You need to have the confidence on each other. Give them the empowerment. They need to work independently, same time interdependently. Similarly, there are certain do's we need to do in the teamwork. We have to articulate a goal everyone can identify with. We have to provide a plan or job for each member. We need to provide a mechanism for the communication. We need to create an environment conducive for teamwork. We need to provide effective feedback. And most important, we need to provide motivation. So ladies and gentlemen, I believe I have to stop it here. Remember, we have started discussing a new concept, a new part of our course. First part, in last 24 lectures, I tried to cover the leadership part. And most of that part, alhamdulillah, we have covered there. And now I've shifted to team. And I started with group and team basically. And tried to differentiate between group and team. All teams are groups, but not necessarily all groups are teams. Because groups are two or more people working together for some common goals. They might not be depending on each other. They might not be required for each other for the achievement of the goals. But in the team, the members, they are complementing each other. They depend on each other. Their task is interdependent. And that is why they are team. For an effective team, the cohesiveness, the clear goal, and the motivation is very essential. To make an effective team, you need to select right type of people. You need to train them. You need to have a better communication within them. You need to keep them motivating. You need to have very clear goals and tasks for them. You need to empower them. But nothing is free. Again, you need to link their performance with the reward system. For better performance, you can have the better reward. So that will keep them motivated too. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope the first lecture in this team concept is clear to you. And you start thinking about now about team and the team dynamics. Our next couple of lectures, around 10 to 12, will be focusing mainly on the team and teamwork and how to manage teams. And after that, for the remaining few lectures, I'll again shift to complete total leadership and team management. Take care of yourself. Work hard. We'll be in touch. Thank you. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.